Beatrice and I run Eat Shoots and Roots, so we've been here for around almost 3 years now. And when we started, we actually wanted to teach and also learn how to grow your own food and all that. So what was great was that we could organize these courses and get a lot of people in to teach and also get a lot of people in to learn, understanding where their food comes from, how their food is grown. So the first things that you want to consider if you're in a bigger space is that you want to build the soil instead of taking away. So the kind of gardens that we built here are mainly no-dig gardens, because if you imagine, normally gardens you have this idea where you dig and then you plant inside. But there's actually a layer of topsoil that is very important for plants to grow, which contains like humus and all the nutritious stuff. And if you take that away, then you're just kind of left with clay and other non-fertile ingredients.
Yeah, so topsoil even generally in the jungle is only maybe like the first 6 to 12 inches, and that's pretty much it. And they can function sustainably with just that amount of topsoil. Yeah.
So maybe now that I can show you some examples of how to grow in a landed property, that we've got like some examples in front that you can see.
So firstly here actually we have a herb spiral, and we've used like stone and gravel to build it, and essentially the concept is you grow the ones that require the least amount of water at the top, and I guess the ones that require more water at the bottom, so the water will just trickle down. There's oregano, we have some rosemary. Tarragon does really well, the oregano does really well. This one has been quite maintenance free for us. We haven't really done much to it aside from put compost every now and then, maybe every 3 weeks or so. I guess for this kind of stuff, it's very important for you to continue to harvest. So for tarragon, they get spindly if you don't cut it, so you should always try and eat whenever you have. Yeah.
When we started this garden, we had a couple of wood beds, because normally online you see all these really nice wood panels and it looks so pretty, and then they break down in a year. A lot of the gardening materials that people document are mostly materials that you can find in temperate climates. So, which is a pain for us because it's hard to find resources for the tropics. So we're like, okay, no more wood beds. So we've tried with, this is kind of corrugated material, metal, and then we've also tried with brick. Brick is great if you can get somebody to help you do it.
It's labour intensive.
Yeah.
Very labour intensive. And we also have experimented with plastic beds, plastic garden edges. Has been actually very quite successful because they're very light, so we've just used them, we've just stick them in. There are alternatives if you don't have so much space. You can plant on your balcony and usually use containers, and there are different types of containers which we've also experimented with, so we can go and take a look.
So basically when you're planting in containers, you can try to use different types of pots or whatever that you can find with holes, or if there aren't any holes, you can actually make holes. So like for example, your standard pot you get from nursery is like this, and it's got holes at the bottom, right? You can use yogurt pots, you can use bottles as long as it's not transparent, because algae will form in your pot. It gives you like a bit more free space to think about how your plants will look at the end of the day, and it doesn't confine you to like just that kind of pot lah.
Yeah.
So
with these smaller containers, I guess, we've tried growing like coriander and celery and stuff, and that grows quite well in these kind of pots, so you can just like cut and eat, and then it will just grow back. Alternatively, to start seedlings, I guess you can do it in a tray or a small, like, I mean, you don't have to get these. You can also be creative with where you start your seedlings. You can use 8 cartons.
Right.
Yeah, so that's also, you can do that as well, just as long as you create drainage at the bottom.
So the kind of factors that you need to consider when also planting your plot or your pot is that you have to think about whether you have enough sunlight when you're in an apartment, especially because you may not have enough sunlight, in which case you have to choose certain plants and all that.
Fruits generally require more sun. You could probably, if you have only partial sun, you could stick to like leafies or salads.
So, and also when you start seedlings, seedlings don't need that much sun, and only later when they reach this stage, then they're happy with more sun. So the best beds that do well in our garden are actually those that are partially shaded, because if it's too hot then everything will just wilt.
Scorch.
Yeah, and get scorched. So basically, in terms of plants, there are 2 categories that you have to think about. There are annuals and then perennials. Annuals are plants that you normally have to plant once, and then you get the seed and then you plant again. So this can happen like 2 to 3 times a year. So this would be like lettuces and things like that. Whereas perennials are things where you plant once and then it will grow for at least 2 years continually. So an example of an annual at the moment, I can give you this. These are radishes that we planted from our peat pellets as well. So you can sort of like see them already forming a bit. Whereas a perennial would be this. This is Malabar spinach. So this one we've kind of had it growing for about 2 years already. We just left it there and then it still goes to seed, but because it grows so well, the seeds just kind of fall and then it grows back again. So yeah, you can see all these babies here.
Yeah. So in general, I guess the life cycles of annuals are much shorter. Once it grows it matures and it seeds, then it dies. Whereas the life cycles of perennials, it can go on for years.
For annuals, it would be like radishes are an annual, carrots also I guess, some tomatoes, some brinjal, some okra. So actually traditionally speaking, like a lot of the ulams, they're all actually based on perennial plants. Even gingers and turmeric.
Your serai,
kangkong.
Yeah. So those are generally things that you cut and then you just leave it and it'll grow again.
Annuals are actually harder because they require more time and they require more energy, and you have to like plow and till it and take it out later on and harvest it. Whereas perennials you just grow and then you leave it lah, and then later on you come back and harvest it a bit by bit.